Minister, last week I heard you fly the kites about 30-year-olds being vaccinated, and I was shocked because I just come off the phone from a family who had a 92-year-old in the family who still hadn't had her first vaccination. So I put in a parliamentary question to you, and I asked you were all 85-year-olds fully vaccinated who wanted vaccines, and I couldn't get a confirmation from you. So the question I have here, the first question is, when will those who are over 85 who seek a vaccination have their first vaccine, and when will they be fully inoculated? Also, I put in the PQ with regards a claim that has been made against the state's claims agency by a family of a loved one who contracted COVID-19 in a hospital setting and subsequently died. And we offer our sympathies to that family. And I've heard of many people who've had similar experiences. I have no doubt that most hospitals have done their best to try and keep the illness out. But we do also know that frontline workers, many of them, felt abandoned by the government in terms of understaffing over the course of this particular illness. I'd also just say that this is incredible because 74,000 people actually applied for the Be On Call for Ireland, even though this time last year only 54 of those people were actually employed by the state. I've also heard of situations of negligence that have happened in the HSE in relation to people catching COVID in hospitals and subsequently losing their lives. So I'd like to ask the Minister, have similar cases been brought to the department but have not yet made it to the courts? Minister, your government indemnified vaccine companies in relation to any adverse effects that will occur from vaccines. I'd like to ask you, have any people approached the department with regards compensation in terms of adverse effects that they have experienced due to these vaccinations? And just the final point is, I believe there's a need for caution, there's no doubt about it, but I do believe that the government's approach to lockdown right now is disproportionate. This is not December, this is not January. Hospital admissions are now thankfully low. ICU beds are now thankfully low. 1.2 million people have had a vaccine. So, I do believe there's a necessity to open up elements of our society now. First and foremost, when are you going to fully reopen cancer, heart disease, stroke and mental health services in this country? These people, I believe, have been deprioritised, even though it's a life and death issue for many of these individuals. When can you guarantee that outdoor delivery of hospitality and pub services can happen? We know that outdoor has been one of the lowest locations of transmissions of this illness so far. And just a final question, this is really confusing, because every time I ask the government this, they say that religious practice will reopen at the same time as museum and gallery visits will reopen. Now, museum and gallery visits are important, but religious practice is an international human right. Are both of them pitched the same by this government? Gormagat.
Thank you. Ministers.
Thank you, Deputy, for your questions. With regards to those who are over 85, that cohort has been substantially completed. There is no doubt that across our country there will be people. For example, Deputy Higgins earlier said that there was a GP in her constituency who's refusing to vaccinate his over 70s, and that alternative arrangements need to be put in place. Similarly, Minister Butler has given a lot of detail through this session on the housebound, the majority of whom have now been vaccinated, but not all of whom have been vaccinated. So can I tell you that every single person over 85 has been vaccinated? No, but what I can say is that the vast, vast majority have. There is a relatively small number, some of whom are housebound, and if there are others, like Deputy Higgins said, obviously they need to be prioritised. With regard to legal cases, I'll get you a note on that. With regards to resumption of services, you and I discussed this the last time in the Dáil, and all I can say is I wholeheartedly agree with you. In fact, I had a meeting yesterday with the Chief Exec of the HSE, and one of the items we discussed was resumption of services. All I can tell you, Deputy, and I hope you believe the good intent, indeed from me and from the HSE, is we are acutely aware. We are so aware that so much important healthcare has had to be paused during COVID. The essential services have continued. Yep. We want them back up again as quickly as possible.